Gryffindor. Gryffindor is the most famous house at Hogwarts, not because it's the best, the Sorting Hat never said that, but because the entire Harry Potter story is told from inside it. Every chapter, every embarrassing hallway moment, all Gryffindor. The house gets more attention than it necessarily earns, but when you look at what it's built on, it's more interesting than just the brave ones. Godric Gryffindor was one of the 4 founders and the best duelist alive at the time. He carried both a wand and a sword, which is the medieval wizard equivalent of showing up to a meeting with 2 laptops, just in case. His belief was simple: magical education should be open to anyone with the courage to use it. He didn't care about your family name. That put him in direct conflict with Salazar Slytherin, who thought only pure-blood students deserved to learn magic. But the argument ended with Slytherin leaving the school entirely. Before any of that, the 4 founders took Godric's own hat, the one on his actual head, and enchanted it with all 4 of their signatures so it could sort students long after they were gone. That's the sorting hat, not some purpose-built artifact. Godric's actual hat still sorting students after 1,000 years. He also left behind the Sword of Gryffindor. It's goblin-made, so it absorbs things that strengthen it, much like goblins absorb wizarding gold. After Harry used it to kill the basilisk, the blade permanently soaked up basilisk venom, one of a few substances capable of destroying a Horcrux. But the sword only appears to a true Gryffindor in genuine need. It won't show up for someone hoping to look impressive. When Harry pulled it from the sorting hat in 2nd year, he wasn't trying to be a hero. He was terrified and trying not to get eaten. That's exactly the right energy. The hat places students in Gryffindor based on daring, nerve, chivalry, and a concerning attraction to chaos. Courage is the big idea, but those 3 words are the specific ones. Gryffindor isn't about being fearless. Fearless people are just broken in a particular way. Gryffindor is about acting anyway, even when everything says turn around and go home. That's why Neville Longbottom, who spent most of his first year dropping his toad and falling off his broomstick, was a perfect fit. The house also listens. Harry had real Slytherin qualities, and the hat told him so. He asked not to go there. The hat adjusted. When that deliberation runs long, it's called a hat stall, and it means sorting accounts for who you want to be, not just who you already are. The common room is in Gryffindor Tower, one of the castle's highest points. Great views, terrible news if you forgot something downstairs. Entry requires the right password from the fat lady, a sentient portrait who takes the job seriously, except when she wanders off to visit other portraits and leaves the whole house stranded in the corridor. Colors are scarlet and gold. Mascot is a lion. Element link is fire. The house ghost is nearly headless Nick, executed by 45 incomplete axe strikes that left his head attached by about an inch of skin. He has decided this is impressive rather than embarrassing. The alumni list is real: Dumbledore, McGonagall, Sirius Black, Lily Evans, Lupin, all the Weasleys. If you're building a team to fight impossible evil, Gryffindor is where you start. But a lot of those people died, not because they were outmatched, but because they chose the dangerous path when a safer one was available. The strengths are courage, loyalty, a moral compass that barely wobbles. The weaknesses are those same qualities pushed too far: recklessness, stubbornness, a habit of treating every situation like a clear battle between good and evil, even when it's a scheduling conflict. Fire is powerful. A fire with no control isn't heroism, it's just a fire. Slytherin. Say Slytherin and most people immediately picture dark robes, snake imagery, and a general sense that whoever just walked in is about to betray you. That picture isn't entirely wrong. The house did produce Voldemort, Bellatrix Lestrange, and enough future Azkaban inmates to fill several wings. But writing it off as the evil house is lazy. It misses what Slytherin actually is: something more interesting and more useful than a warehouse of future dark wizards. Salazar Slytherin was one of the greatest wizards of his time, a Parselmouth, a master legilimens who could read other people's thoughts, and highly skilled in defensive magic, exceptional by any measure. His problem was his beliefs. He thought only pure-blood students deserved to learn magic and saw Muggleborns as a danger to the wizarding world. That put him on a crash course with Godric Gryffindor. It got bad. Slytherin left. We know the story. But before walking out, he did something the other founders knew nothing about. He built a hidden chamber underneath the school, accessible only through the second floor girls' bathroom by speaking Parseltongue. The Chamber of Secrets held a basilisk, a giant serpent whose direct gaze kills on contact, waiting for Slytherin's heir. Think of it as a security alarm, except instead of making noise, it made eye contact, and that was the last thing you ever did. Tom Riddle found it in 5th year. You know how that went. The Sorting Hat sums up Slytherin with one phrase: any means to achieve their ends. Not some means, any. The house sorts for ambition, cunning, resourcefulness, and self-preservation, and notably missing from that list is any ethical direction whatsoever. The hat is not asking questions about your character, it just wants to know if you're effective. That's why Draco Malfoy got in, but that's also why Merlin, yes, that Merlin, got in. Same house, very different report cards. The common room sits in the dungeons beneath the Great Lake, which is either extremely cold or extremely concerning, depending on how you feel about being surrounded by water and giant squid on a Tuesday morning. Greenish light through underwater windows, stone arched ceilings, serpent carvings, an entrance hidden in a bare dungeon wall with no portrait and no riddle, just a password. The room's entire design philosophy is do not enter. The house ghost is the Bloody Baron, the most feared spirit at Hogwarts. He barely speaks, covered in silver bloodstains he won't explain, and even Peeves does what he says. The story is bleak. He loved Helena Ravenclaw. She rejected him. He killed her, then killed himself out of guilt, and has haunted the castle in her blood as self-imposed punishment ever since. A house that prizes ambition has a ghost who destroyed himself through obsession. Warning or on-theme decor? Unclear. Now the alumni list. Yes, Slytherin produced a noseless dark wizard. It also produced Merlin, and that's official Wizarding World material, not fan theory. The most famous wizard in human history was a Slytherin. The house doesn't mention this nearly enough. It also produced Severus Snape, who spent 17 years pretending to be a villain while protecting the one person who mattered most to him. Regulus Black, who died alone destroying a Horcrux with no glory and no audience. Andromeda Tonks, who walked away from her pure-blood family and never looked back. And Horace Slughorn, who spent the series being a coward and networking at parties, then showed up at the Battle of Hogwarts and led a charge anyway. These people were running longer plays than almost anyone around them. Slytherin's strength is vision, thinking ahead, reading the room, not wasting resources on dramatic gestures when a quieter move works. The weaknesses come from the same place. When any means stops being a philosophy and becomes a permission slip, it goes wrong fast. The house doesn't make that choice for you. For whoever just got sorted, that's either deeply empowering or deeply concerning. Ravenclaw. Ask most Hogwarts students to rank the 4 houses and Ravenclaw lands somewhere in the middle of the conversation. Not because it's unimpressive, but because it rarely makes noise. Nobody writes songs about Ravenclaw. Nobody tells cautionary tales. It just sits up in its tower being correct about things. The rest of the school mostly gets on without noticing, and the house considers this a reasonable arrangement. And it has books. Rowena Ravenclaw was one of the 4 founders and, by historical accounts, the most brilliant of them. She designed the ever-changing floor plan of Hogwarts itself, a castle whose staircases move and whose rooms occasionally decide to stop existing, which is either a remarkable feat of magical architecture or a documented act of hostility against students who are already late for class. Probably both. She believed the cleverest students deserve the finest education and built a house around that idea. The selection criteria are wit, wisdom, creativity, and genuine openness to the unconventional. Eccentricity gets you extra points, and that's why Luna Lovegood made complete sense in Ravenclaw. Rowena's personal artifact was her diadem, a silver crown enchanted to sharpen the wisdom of whoever wore it. She lost it because her daughter Helena stole it. Helena fled to Albania and hid it in a hollow tree, on the theory that owning her mother's most prized possession would make her as brilliant as her mother. It didn't, because wisdom doesn't transfer through theft. Voldemort later found it, turned it into a Horcrux, and hid it back in the castle. A crown designed to make people wiser became a container for a piece of the least wise decision in Dark Wizard history. Helena became the Grey Lady, Ravenclaw's house ghost, pale, silent, deeply reluctant to discuss any of the above. She'll talk if you approach her with with genuine curiosity rather than manipulation, which is the right approach for most things in Ravenclaw. Harry only figured this out because Neville suggested asking nicely. Getting into the Ravenclaw common room does not require a password, it requires answering a riddle posed by a bronze eagle-shaped knocker on the door. Get it wrong, and you wait outside until someone smarter comes along. There is no teacher override. A Ravenclaw locked out at midnight has to stand in a cold corridor debating philosophy with a door. The house considers this character building. Is it possibly also why Ravenclaws tend to be slightly smug? They already solved the door. Colors are blue and bronze. The mascot is an eagle, not a raven, which is either a deliberate choice or a 1,000-year-old administrative error nobody wants to address. Notable alumni include Phileas Flitwick, skilled duelist and charms professor, Cho Chang, Luna Lovegood, and unfortunately Gilderoy Lockhart, fraudster, amnesiac, and the most decorated Ravenclaw failure in the series. He charmed his way through an entire career by stealing credit from genuinely capable wizards and writing best-selling books about it. Cunning, self-promotional, and hollow underneath. A Slytherin in Ravenclaw's clothes, which is a specific kind of embarrassing. The house's core weakness is the gap between intelligence and judgment. Knowing a great deal is not the same as knowing what to do with it. Ravenclaws can overthink past an obvious answer, mistake confidence in their reasoning for confidence in their conclusion, and be wrong in very elaborate, well-documented ways. The house produces extraordinary thinkers. The difference between that and producing people who are catastrophically wrong usually comes down to whether they were willing to ask for help. Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff is the house everyone underestimates, and the house that keeps quietly not caring about that. It doesn't have Gryffindor's fame, Slytherin's mystique, or Ravenclaw's intellectual reputation. It has something none of those houses quite manage consistently. It's reliably good. Not flashy good, not morally interesting good, just actually consistently show up when it matters good. The other houses get the credit, Hufflepuff gets the job done. Helga Hufflepuff was the most inclusive of the 4 founders, and deliberate about it, while the others argued over who was smart enough, brave enough, or pure enough to deserve a place at Hogwarts. Helga took everyone else. The students nobody was fighting over. The Sorting Hat says so directly. She would teach the lot and treat them just the same. That sounds like a consolation prize. It isn't. It takes real conviction to say everyone deserves a fair shot when the 3 most powerful people in the room are busy deciding who doesn't. She was an exceptional food-based witch. Her spells are still in use in the Hogwarts kitchens, which is either evidence she cared deeply about nourishing the people around her, or proof she understood a well-fed student is a better student, or both. Hufflepuffs tend to think practically that way. The house sorts for hard work, patience, loyalty, and fair play. No magical gifts required. No special bloodline, no particular personality type beyond basic decency, and the willingness to keep going when things get hard. This gets read as low standards. It's the opposite. Loyalty that holds under pressure is rarer than a single moment of bravery. Patience through a long, thankless stretch is harder than a quick act of cleverness. The common room is in the basement near the kitchens. Enter through a barrel and a stack of barrels. Tap the right one in the right rhythm and it opens. Tap the wrong one and you get vinegar in the face. The room itself is round, low-ceilinged, warm, and covered in plants. Comfortable chairs, earthy tones, badgers everywhere. It's widely agreed to be the most livable common room at Hogwarts, which the house accepts as a compliment while noting that the other 3 have significantly more frostbite risk. The house ghost is the Fat Friar, executed by the church for his ability to cure the pox and produce rabbits from his mouth. He still advocates for second chances and thinks Peeves should be allowed to stay. Both are losing arguments. He keeps making them. The alumni carry more weight than people give them. Cedric Diggory competed in the Triwizard Tournament with genuine skill and more composure than the situation deserved. Nymphadora Tonks was one of the Order of the Phoenix's most capable Aurors, and Newt Scamander built the entire foundation of modern magical zoology, wrote the textbook still in use a century later, and was quietly decisive when it counted without making a production of it. The last part is very Hufflepuff. The house's perceived weakness is that it doesn't perform. No dramatic stands, no famous feuds, no signature type of power. When Voldemort returned and students were given the choice to fight or leave, Hufflepuff Hufflepuff sent more back to fight than any house but Gryffindor. Nobody put that in the main story, it happened anyway. That's the thing about Hufflepuff, it was never doing it for the audience. And now that you've seen how Hogwarts judges its students, it's time to see how the rest of the world does it, with accents. Your next lesson at Stickman Hogwarts, all 11 wizarding schools in Harry Potter Explained. Watch now before the international sorting ceremony begins.